Today's episode is a short episode. Instead of telling you all the things that you probably should be doing, I'm going to tell you some of the things that you shouldn't be doing. And I'm going to do that in the form of a story. Pretty much a kind of true story. I might leave out some of the details. But the statutes of limitations are probably expired, I guess. I don't think I could get in trouble too bad with it. So if you're a longtime listener of the show, you probably have known that my dad was ex-military, ex-police officer, that type of thing. And growing up, that was an interesting thing. From anything like, a deputy of his getting shot and killed and us not knowing if it was him or not for several hours, all the way up to incidents like my dad coming home with blood on his police car and somebody's tennis shoe where somebody had shot themselves in the foot and like there's a hole in it and there's blood all in it and whatnot, and examples of you don't need to do this. So he was very by the book in a lot of ways. And so one of the things that he would do is show me, people on drugs and had done stupid things and shown the consequences of it. And there was one night in particular that he took me out to work I don't know what it was. I think it was a car crash or whatever, but there were dead bodies and I'm not sure what his specific point of reference was to taking me to that. I think it was probably to toughen me up or expose me to more of the world. And if that's what he was trying to do, I think he did a good job. As far as drugs go, I'll never forget this. So one of the chores I had to do as a kid was washing the dishes, which is something I have passed on to my kids. The generational pain that kids have. Anyway, I'm standing there washing dishes, and Dad comes in and says, if I ever catch you doing drugs, I'm going to kick your out this and, just kind of scared me half to death and just kind of walked off. And for a long time, it kind of stuck in my mind as like, whoa, don't do drugs. And then on top of that, the bloody sneaker, the dead bodies, all kinds of things. Definitely kind of more of a come to Jesus type of thing, in explaining things to not do. And, ordinarily, probably listening to this podcast, you would think that I probably was a sweet little angel and I didn't do anything like that. And that is not the case. Now, the drugs I stayed away from for a while, all the way up until I was in college. The drugs that I would do was the common everyday stuff, by 80s standards, with cigarettes or alcohol, but nothing else. It was one of my first years in college, I think. I'm sitting at a table with my dad, and he's telling me about, the time I did marijuana. And I'm like, spit take. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, they had me do that in the military. I was like, what do you mean? So, he explains that I guess they were trying to get him exposed, or people in his group exposed to what was going on at that time, and they made them smoke marijuana, which at this point seems odd, but some of the things he did back then were not, maybe a little unorthodox. But anyway, he said he tried it, didn't like it, just kind of made him sick, and he never did it again. And the thing that popped through my mind was, well, if he tried it I should be able to try it, right? And so that was my logic. And at the time, I was living in a dorm in college, and I shared a bathroom. So my suite mate was more or less kind of like my roommate, if you will. But, we had separate bedrooms. We shared a bathroom. And him and me were hanging out quite a bit. He'd eat my food. We just, whatever, play video games. And he was always trying to get me to smoke dope. And I was like, no. I'm like, you can do it. But, no, not me. And, I think that was probably the greatest present he'd had in years, was the day I come home from my dad's house. And I was like, hey, I want to get high. And at the time he was eating a cold macaroni and cheese sushi roll. It was wrapped up in seaweed, and he's got like a mouth half of it, and he's just giving me this look, and he's like, what? I was like, I want to get high. I changed my mind. I want to get high. And he was like, out of his mind. He was super excited. He was just crazy. He was like, oh my God, we got to go do this and whatever. And so that night was a night that we had to go to a show. It was a play. I forget what the play was. Totally not important to the story. Wasn't important to me at the time, but we watched the show and we stayed. We get extra had credit for our class. I think it was an English class. And so we went off down the hill, and he's telling me, he's like, look, the first time, you may not get high. It's kind of a common occurrence. It may take you a couple times to get high. And in my mind, I'm like, no way, we're going to do this. And so I'm taking a hit, and yeah, this is where we're going this episode. So I'm taking a hit of this, and I'm just going for it. I mean, I'm sucking in as much smoke as I can, and I'm holding it for as long as I can, over and over and over again. And he's like, are you feeling anything? I'm like, no, not really. He's like, well, like I said, maybe it'll have to be next time or whatever. So it's time to go to our show. So we go in, and sure enough, I mean, we're like right up at the front because everybody wants to sit in the back. And I don't know, it's maybe 10, 15 minutes go by, and it starts to hit me. And so I'm hitting my buddy. I'm like, dude, I'm feeling it. And he was already feeling it. And then, I start kind of giggling and laughing. He starts giggling and laughing. And I would say we were probably almost getting thrown out. And then we're like, okay, the lights come on, everybody gets out, and and we're gone, and we're hanging outside, and come to find out it was intermission. We just thought it was over. So needless to say, I didn't get the extra credit. And for a time, I did marijuana. I think spring break was coming up, and I spent a whole week just out of my mind. And I think it was an interesting week all the way up until I was out in the middle of this barn playing cards. We were getting high, and I leaned my head back in my chair, and I felt like I couldn't lean my head back up, like my head was going to fall off. And it was kind of making me really paranoid. And so everybody kind of let that one ride for a while, laughing at me. And, after that, I think it might have been a couple more weeks. I was like, I've been there, I've done that, there you go. I think I was done. And I didn't really talk to my dad about it. Actually, I don't think I talked to him about it at all. But, for my own little journey into, hey, it was dad tried it, I tried it. Mine was a little bit more pronounced of a journey into that. But I think probably the biggest thing that I drew out of that was that I'd saw people, and at the time I was dating a girl, later ended up being my fiance, and it didn't work out for multiple reasons, and that's another interesting story in itself. But I saw how addicted she was to it and how other people were, and I didn't want to associate myself with it anymore. I think I'd had my fun, I'd experienced it, and I was done. And yeah, I mean, I would say, I have a few addictions in my life. I really like food. I like to be entertained. I guess you'd call that addiction. I don't know. The food thing, yeah. I'm overweight, so I'd call that addiction. Probably entertainment, maybe not so much, but chemical dependencies on like nicotine or alcohol or marijuana, or heaven forbid, something really heavy and devastating, like heroin or something. That never fell in my purview. I think realistically, I did want to try LSD. The spiritual side of me wanted to explore that, but it was too concerning, I think. I wanted it to be in a safe environment and with somebody I trusted, and it never panned out. And now I think about it, I mean, would I do it? Probably not. I mean, it would, maybe if I'm retired, and I go and have like a spiritual version of that, but just to casually, do something like drop acid and go out into the world. No, not really. That wouldn't be for me. But yeah, I think that whole experience of my dad, telling me don't do drugs and being hardcore about it, and then later on kind of easing away from it, being, kind of man to man, and like, yeah, I tried it. It was refreshing. And honestly, in a way, it was kind of exciting to be able to try it. And knowing that it wasn't going to be like that one's going to ruin my life and I was going to become addicted and, that type of horrible stuff. And honestly, it was, back in that day, you didn't have the Snoop Dogg level of THC and the potency of what you have now. It's not. But yeah, I kind of liken this episode to, I don't know, I guess a couple different things, keep off the grass. Well, I didn't want to go play on the grass until you said keep off the grass. What's special about that grass? What, is that going to make my feet feel really good, or, what's the deal? And I say that in a flippant way, I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, I mean, you know why people are saying keep off the grass. They want their grass to look good. But it's that mentality, I guess, as a kid that I had was, if somebody's telling you not to do something, why is that? And the hard drugs, again, not worth it. 100% not worth it. But some of the other things that I did as a kid, that I shouldn't have, were pretty extensive. And I think that probably ultimately comes down to is not having parental guidance in my life. I didn't have that wisdom, doing it once, hey, that's okay. Having a parent walk you through why doing something stupid like shooting toilet paper into the toilet bowl during a prom game and then getting caught for it and then getting expelled for a few days. Yeah, I mean, probably should have had a parental figure there telling me, don't do that, ground you, here you go, stupid. This is not good. Or like the other homecoming game where you went and decided you were going to build a bonfire right next to a building and empty out garbage, and people thought that maybe you were trying to set the building on fire. Also getting expelled for that. So some other interesting things, doing very criminal things, which now that I start thinking about it, probably are not a good idea to put on a podcast. But, I didn't have the parental figures in my life that really cared to say any difference. If I was expelled, I don't think my mother cared. I just didn't show up for school. She never said anything to me. I don't think she ever even found out. And I think the administration at my school was so lackadaisical that they didn't follow up to do whatever. Or maybe they just didn't care. I don't know. But, at some point, and I think it was probably just before I turned 15, I was doing some pretty bad stuff. Stuff I could have gone away to prison for. I started thinking about it. I was like, it's only a matter of time. And at this time, my dad was captain of the sheriff's department. And anyway, I just figured it was only a matter of time. I was like, luck is gonna run out. We were being smart, sort of. Obviously I'd had some intelligence. Enough intelligence to be dangerous and stupid. And we did some odd things. Like we kept things at an old lady's house and she didn't know, and so we were never in possession of it. Really, just long story short, dumb stuff. And at some point, I just decided I was gonna get away from that, and more to the point, get away from people that were complicit in my badness. And that was a problem all the way up until college. I seemed to fall in with the wrong crowd too many times, and one thing led to another, and I'm doing something stupid. And so at some point I just decided I was gonna walk away from everybody that was like that. But before that, I decided I was just going to leave and just drop it. So I think that was about 15. And on top of that, I really felt like morally it was the wrong thing to do. Not quitting this, but morally doing these bad things. And I felt like I was empty, and I wanted something more. None of these bad things filled me up. They only kind of made me hollow inside. And I wouldn't say that I'd found God per se. I think God was always with me. I just might not have been with him as much as what I would like to have been. But definitely, I felt like there was something that was pushing me to be better. to be morally right. And I mean, now thinking about it, I mean, in a way, it was kind of a miracle. I mean, let's just put it this way. Why else would a 14-year-old kid who was making pretty good money, albeit illegally, and yeah, I mean, why would you stop that without and not getting caught? So I don't know. Maybe it was God's hand. I like to think so. Now, especially now I think about it. And yeah, so the grass, to stay off the grass. Well, why would you do that? Why would you go on the grass? Or why would you tell me not to get on the grass? Let's go play. Let's go play soccer or football. There's a lot of temptation in a young kid's life that you need something for. You need that parental guidance. And yeah, I feel incredibly blessed to have gotten to where I did without having parents that were that motivated and that much a part of my life. Yeah. So I'm not saying that my kids or your kids or you or anybody else is better for having parents, and that 100%, you'll be better, because it doesn't always work out that way. But I like to think that, yeah, if you have parents that care about you, you've got better than average chance to have a better life. The other thing I'll tell you is that, I didn't have any career guidance or financial guidance at all. I take that back. I had a girlfriend whose mother did give me some advice. Not a lot, but it was definitely appreciated and still appreciated to this day. But nobody that really pushed me to be better or to be at a different point. So anyway, so I just want you to know that, you can come from a horrible background, a poor background, a criminal background, and there's still hope for you. There is. I wouldn't say that anything in this life, for the most part, is you're one and done. You can move forward. You can move past all the pain and suffering that you might have caused yourself or other people. Now, I guess if this is just really one of those scenarios where somebody's listening and they've murdered somebody or done something really, really bad, I don't know. I don't know if I can be genuinely positive for you and be honest. I mean, here's what I can tell you is that if you accept Jesus Christ as your personal savior, you believe in him, that you have a new beginning waiting for you. But every day is a gift. Every day. And whether you believe it or not, you're blessed. Sometimes you just have to look for it. And yeah, I tell you, I'm trying not to be religious on my show, but damn, I can't help it. I think you just have to believe in yourself, because God believes in you. Christ does. I do. I don't know who you are or where you are. If you're somewhere in Europe, Asia, Africa, South America, North America, Australia, Germany, England, Mexico, Italy, Russia, India, Vietnam, Japan, China, Philippines, Arkansas. Arkansas. Why is it such a foreign country? I don't know. It seemed funny at the time. No matter where you are, I mean, I believe in you. What can I say? Sometimes I might feel that, I don't know. I just have to figure that if you're listening to the show that you're somebody different, somebody special, somebody stupid for listening to my show. No, I'm not going to say you're stupid. Maybe I'm stupid to say that, but no. I guess what's the big takeaway from this? What's the big truth in what I've said? That your parents are people too. They absolutely are. But they love you and they want to do what's right for you. And just like in the story with my dad, telling me he's going to kick my butt out a bleeping window. If you ever caught me doing drugs, he was frustrated with that night. He was frustrated with some kid blowing off part of his foot because he was high out of his mind. He didn't want his kid to end up in that same scenario. And yeah, he tried to intimidate me, and he guess what? He did a good job. He did a great job of it. I carried with that intimidation with me for years. And then, at some point he saw me not more of a son, but as of a man that I guess I became, and confided in with me, that yeah, he'd done marijuana. And I'm sure he didn't anticipate me going out and doing it, but I think he was, in his own way, was kind of giving me the, hey, it's not that bad. But also I didn't enjoy it either. Your mileage may vary. And telling you about my past, with some of the bad things that I've done. Very, very brief history of some of the bad things I've done. As a kid, that's the natural tendency of people that are left up to their own devices. Free range kids. There's probably some advantages that I had to being a free range kid, but that story itself, of how bad my life could have been. The example of a free range kid is not a good one. Definitely not. But the fact that I could come away from it and try to be a better person without getting my hand slammed in the cookie jar is either A, a miracle, or B, that's just maybe something that's built into me, and that's just the kind of person I am, or both. I don't know. Who knows? And not to say that I have this super amazing, horrible story that I climbed out of the depths of some pit and became a better person. And it's a shining example above all, not by any means. But little old me and my little old podunk town, and trying to make a better life for myself in a family that I wanted to have one day. Yeah, I mean, if I can do it, you can do it. No doubt about it. If I can do it, you can do it. So, be the parent you want to be. Or be the parent that your kids deserve, rather. And I guess it's okay to give them a little tough love, especially if it's for a good reason. But be there for them. I think I was always intimidated by my dad because of who he was and how he was. And I was never going to be that open with him because I felt like I was before some kind of judge, jury, and executioner. So let your kids fail sometimes and let them tell you about it. Gain that confidence in them. I wish I'd had that with my dad. I really do. But maybe that just wasn't him. But anyway, short episode for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Love you. Take care. Be the positivity that this world needs. Be the positivity that you need. I believe in you. Good night, y'all.